Quick video to compare and contrast the Canon T5i or 700D as it's known in some parts of the world with the Nikon D5300. These are both kind of your entry-level DSLRs from the two big manufacturers. Now, this is not a full review of either camera. I have those already. There's links down below to them, and at the end of this video, based on your interest, you can follow those links at the end of the video as well off to more information. This is really hitting on the highlights of the pros and cons of each, and I'm going to keep this briefer than my usual videos where I really go in depth and just kind of want to give you an overview. One of the things I want to let you know is that you are welcome to ask questions either in the comments down below or even better over on my Facebook page, which is also linked right down below this. I try to answer every question I get, especially if you take the time to give me a little bit of information about you. Please don't watch this or watch part of this and hear that I can answer your questions and immediately go ask me. Watch the whole thing, then tell me what type of photography or videography you're interested in, and then I can help you make some more intelligent recommendations to you. So, really quick, I was not a huge fan of the Nikon D5200, a little bit sluggish. It was sold with the 18-55 lens as kind of the standard package, and that is a terrible lens. It makes the camera look like it takes blurry pictures when the camera actually takes quite nice pictures. The D5300 fixed almost all of that. When it first came out, it wasn't sold with the 18-55. The sluggishness is gone, and in general, the pros of the D5300, excellent image quality, really, really nice in good light or in bad light. As those light levels drop, you really see the increase in quality of the D5300 over the D5200 and over the T5i. The D5300 is excellent in auto mode. Really, really nice job. It's a smart camera. It does a good job of figuring out what the exposure should be, and even more impressive when the pop-up flash is used. Now, in general, I'm not a fan of pop-up flash pictures. The flash just isn't far enough away from the lens to get rid of red eye and to kind of avoid that flashed in the face look. But the D5300 does do a decent job, and I've been continually impressed anytime I've been using that feature. So if you want to leave this camera on auto, D5300 does a very nice job there. Also kind of targeting those folks that like to leave it on auto or like to play around with kind of the fun scenes and effects and filters feature, D5300 has a pile of them. Miniature mode, selective coloring, fish eye, candlelight, food. I'm mixing up that some of those are scenes, some of those are effects, some of those are filters, but they're all different things you can do to your pictures or your video, and the D5300 has a lot of them, and they're fun. Some of them are definitely gimmicky and not something a professional photographer is going to be using, but they're there, and they're there for your enjoyment. So if you like those kind of things, you should consider the D5300. It has GPS and Wi-Fi built in. Now we'll come back to some of that on the con side, but it's nice that you have the ability to tag your images with their location as you're walking around taking pictures, and also they have an app, and it is only an app. And you can pull the images off and then share them out to Instagram or Facebook or wherever you are on the go. There's no starting and stopping video, but that's true of pretty much all of the different cameras. Very few of them allow you to control video from a Wi-Fi connection. But that's nice. The app is a little limited, but it's still there. Nikon sells, now this isn't directly to the camera, but Nikon sells the 35mm f1.8. It sells for just about $200 or just under. That is a fantastic prime lens. If you buy the D5300, buy that lens as well, and you are on your way to being able to make those gorgeous lower light, beautifully blurred background images. Those two things as a combination are really, really nice. Now, they have started selling the D5300 with the 18-55. Yuck, why? At first they weren't. I thought, great, they realized how bad it was. They listened to me. I didn't really think they listened to me. But it's a terrible lens, and it's holding your camera back from being as good as it can be. Sold with the 18-140, that's a pretty good lens. I've got a video review of that. I'll link to that below. It's very convenient. It doesn't really get you to the point of where you can make those beautifully blurred background images as easily as you can with something like the 35, but it is very convenient. And the combination of the two of them together right now, the price that it's selling at, is quite good. And really there's nothing else at that price point and quality and convenience. You're very close to the Canon 70D, which is better in almost all respects except size, and the D5300 does feel nice in the hands. That's one of the things they redesigned, and I do appreciate how it feels in the hands. It's good. So those are all good. Cons. The D5300 still continues, no touchscreen, and the user interface is just a little too jammed-packed and cluttered. It's not the most fun, and in general, the camera isn't as user-friendly as I would like, and especially if we're comparing it to the T5i, which is very user-friendly. That's one of T5i's strongest suits, and that touchscreen too. But so the interface is a little bit clunky. GPS. Now, I listed that as a pro. It's nice to be able to tag your images, but for it to really work, you have to set it on this setting, that is completely battery draining. And it's very possible and very likely that you will leave it on that setting, set your camera down, forget that it's there. When you go to pick your camera back up, its battery will be dead because the entire time it was searching or refreshing the GPS information in the camera. So you have to be careful about that you can kill your battery quite easily. Aperture mode and live view, or setting our aperture and live view and exposure simulation. You can do all of those things in the D5300, but it's a little quirky still, and sometimes, depending on the mode you're in, you have to back out of live view, change your aperture, back in. So that quirk is there, and it's a little frustrating that they haven't changed that yet. From time to time I get asked, will they update that with the firmware? I don't think so. This has been on all of Nikon's cameras for ages and ages. They don't seem interested or willing to change this. And you know, maybe you think I'm being a little picky about this, but I hear from a lot of people that are frustrated with this issue. Also, using the live view, the focus is kind of slow, and that brings us to the video mode. The D5300 can shoot gorgeous video, especially or in low light or good light. But the focusing is not really something you want to use. You're going to be using manual focusing because it's slow, it's got that little bit of herky-jerkiness to it, and there are no silent lenses from Nikon like you get on the Canon side that do a nice job of silently focusing. Let's touch on the T5i now, or the 700D. As I mentioned, very user-friendly camera. You have this lovely touchscreen on the back. There are the settings, touch what you want to change the value, and you're good to go. That's also really nice for photography and using that live view to compose and then focus. I want to focus here, you touch. I want to focus here, you touch. The D5300, it feels a little laborious as you kind of use the little touchpad on the back, the little button, to move your focus point across the screen, and it will move slow. It's one of those deals where you hold it down, it moves slow at first, and then faster and faster the longer you hold it. And so what happens to me oftentimes is, here it comes, and then it decides to move fast and it jumps past my point and I have to move it back. It's not a huge deal, but it is another one of those little bit of annoyances, and I would love to see Nikon add a touchscreen in their next D5400. That would be nice. The T5i is cheaper, 700D T5i. It's cheaper, and either lens that you buy it with, 18 to 55 or the 18 to 135, is very good as a kind of starter convenient lenses. And I have videos that will help you decide which one of those two to buy. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm pointing you to lots of other videos, but I think you probably want more information as you're watching this, and they're all down there. And that whole package is cheaper, and those STM lenses that it comes with, if you want, are silent and smooth in live view / video. So that means that you can shoot video on easy autofocus mode with the T5i, not hear the lenses, and get that much more camcorder-like experience. Still not quite as fast, but you also can shoot this video where you get that lovely depth of field, and much, much, much better in low light than a camcorder, of course. All right, now, none of those quirks that you see on the Nikon side as far as aperture changes go. You can turn that live view on, you can change your aperture very easily by either touching the screen or using the buttons. And you see full exposure simulation on the back, which means that it kind of, as you start to slow your shutter speed down and let in lots of light, the picture will get brighter and brighter and brighter till you start to see it overexposed. I think because of that, I really like the T5i as a learning tool. And it also gives you wireless flash control. Now, it's not wireless as in radio signal. It's wireless as in an optical system from the onboard flash. I've got videos about that too. They're right down below too. But that gives you a little bit more room to grow as a photographer. So between the no quirks kind of live view aperture and having the flash control in there, I feel like the T5i is a bit better to learn and work with as a camera. But you know, there's not a huge difference there. Not a huge. And then the colors straight out of the Canon cameras. Now, I have a little bit of bias. Maybe it's because I've been shooting Canon longer than Nikon, but I like the look of the Canon colors right out of the camera, and I actually hear that from most people. I never really hear that on the Nikon side as a pro when somebody writes me and says, oh, I looked at both of them, I shot with both of them. And almost always it's kind of this Canon look. Nikon tends to run a little bit greener, and you can easily correct that and you can work with it, but straight out of the camera the images look a little bit greenish to me, especially indoors under kind of mixed lighting situations. So, but the T5i isn't all pros. Whoops, lost my notes. There are some cons. So, in general, the image quality is not as good as the D5300. The D5300 sensor is very nice. You might hear something about no anti-aliasing filter. Basically, that means the images are a little bit sharper. D5300 sensor is newer as well, and low light performance, the amount of noise you get at the higher ISOs is less than what you get with the T5i. Pop-up flash on the T5i. It's not great. Not the flash itself, the flash is fine, but the exposure settings in the camera, they just end up not being great, and they have really that flashed look and are often a little overexposed. On the Canon side, there's no 35mm f1.8 lens. Oh, I wish there was. There's a 35mm f2, it's an older lens, it's quite a bit more expensive. There is the 40mm f2.8, which is a great lens, and there's the 50mm f1.8, which is a great lens for the money, only $100. But that's a little bit of a longer focal length when you put it on the Canon, and that 35mm focal length on a crop sensor, and that is what the Canon and Nikon are both using, crop sensors, is a gorgeous, lovely focal length. And so I'm really jealous of the Nikon folks having that available to them, and I put that as a big pro on the Nikon side and a con on the Canon side. But there are other alternative lenses. Along with that, one other point to touch on with Canon and Nikon, the D5300 does not have an in-body focusing motor. So there are some lenses out there that it will not autofocus with. It doesn't mean you're missing out, but what it means is when you go shopping for lenses, I hear from folks much more often on the Nikon side that are confused about what's going to work for them and what's not. On the Canon side, there really isn't that confusion. If it's a kind of normal, standard Canon lens made in the last billion years, it's going to work fine. I shouldn't say billion because there are older Canon lenses. But when you go shopping on the Amazon site, it is very hard to find a lens that will not autofocus with your Canon. Whereas on the Nikon side, it's quite easy to find a lens that says it'll fit your camera, but then trying to figure out whether or not this one will autofocus. And if you're an eBay shopper trying to find deals, oftentimes I hear from folks a lot that get confused by that. So that's one other thing to kind of consider. Which one would I pick? Most of the time I pick the Canon because of its user-friendly features, and it has more of the features that I appreciate with that kind of flash control and that really just kind of straightforward live view setting. But if you want a camera that works really well on auto with a nice convenient 18-140 lens, and you want those fun features, I'm going to put fun in quotes because they're not fun for everybody, like selective coloring and miniature mode, then you should consider the Nikon. If you've listened to all of this and you're still wondering which one is best for you, leave a comment down below, or even better, come over and find me on Facebook. If you're watching this in the next 3 weeks from when it went up, about 3 weeks, I am giving away a Dolica tripod. This is another reason why you should come over and follow me on Facebook, because I have giveaways and from time to time. So even if you're watching this in the future, there might be a new giveaway going, or there might be some other giveaway that's going to go sometime in the future. And I appreciate you watching. Please subscribe. That is a powerful and easy way for you to say thank you to me. Thanks so much for watching this. Goodbye.